So the project I'm going to talk about today is it's training on an SOP for a large pharmaceutical company, or in the pharmaceutical industry, I guess. They do clinical research. But they are a global organization, and the SOP process is put in place to address quality issues during all of these research studies. As you can imagine, a quality issue is important to address and to recognize and to take care of when you're doing pharmaceutical research. It can, obviously cause investigations and potential harm to research subjects, and delay pharmaceutical drugs from being approved, et cetera, all of that. So the big issue they were having is compliance to these timelines. So they would have a quality issue that might be, recognized, but then, 2 or 3 months are kind of dragging on and no one is kind of taking that next step or taking the actions that are needed to correct that quality issue. So once we met with them and kind of started talking with the SMEs, it kind of became clear that part of the big issue was that no one really knew what they were supposed to do throughout this quality issue kind of process. They had the SOP, and the roles were laid out in the SOP, as well as if you're the issue observer, these are the 3 things you need to do. If you are the issue owner, this is what you need to do. If you're the plan manager, if you're an action owner, they had all of these different kind of roles and kind of what they needed to do. But then it was all sort of just dumped into a PowerPoint that they expected everybody to go through once a year. And then when a quality issue came up, you're supposed to remember, oh, I'm the issue observer. This is what I'm supposed to do, with very little guidance other than this SOP. That was kind of the challenge for us, is figuring out, okay, they've got the SOP, they've got this PowerPoint, what can we do to really make this work for everybody in all of these different roles? I think there are like 5 or 6 different roles throughout this SOP, or throughout this quality issue process. So what we kind of came up with, the upgrade action is sort of what really helped us. So looking at the current PowerPoint they had and really focusing on some of those 9 elements of modern learning, specifically chunking. The PowerPoint was, 20 some odd slides long, or 30, it was just so much content, wasn't really chunked out at all. Nothing was really kind of for me. Everything was just put in there, like, here's all the roles, here's all the processes, if you're deemed to have one of these roles, figure it out, and hyperlinking, there was no kind of cross referencing to, here's where the SOP lives, here's where this, the issue tracker is, nothing was kind of linked together. So again, it was up to the learner to go and know where to find those resources. So those were kind of the big things that we did, is really looked at that current PowerPoint and broke it up into, by role. So if you're a quality issue observer, what do you need to do? What are your next steps? And then from there, whoever takes over at that point, what are their next steps? And so on. So that was kind of our big, the biggest part of, I guess, the cluster. And I'll share what we kind of came up with in the end with you all as well, so you can see the full cluster. And so you can see here that the upgraded training was what we went through that PowerPoint and really chunked it out and kind of made it for me, put a lot of hyperlinks in there, just linking things together so the learner doesn't have to go searching for them every time. And then we also recommended a story-based e-learning. Stories are great, right? And when it's this huge process like this, to be able to tell a story about, I'm Sarah, and I noticed a quality issue. What do I do next? And have the learner really put themselves in Sarah's shoes and kind of walk through that process of what would Sarah do, and having that SOP right there handy for them so that they can refer to it. They don't need to necessarily memorize all of this, right? That's not probably very realistic. And then other things, the SOP was something that they have, and that's an immediate resource that they can access. But again, kind of linking it and making it accessible in the different areas that they might go to when a quality issue is recognized. So those are kind of the different things, some of the social stuff that we came up with. Another thing that they had brought to our attention was that a lot of people don't necessarily maybe have, there's no repercussions, I guess, if you don't finish something on time. So that was another thing that kind of came about and when we were meeting with our SMEs. And so we talked about, hey, let's have these wow recognitions. So if you go through your program and meet all your deadlines or whatnot, let's start recognizing people that actually adhere to those timelines. Rather than, punishing them for not, let's, do the positive reinforcement sort of take there.